Welcome to the Johnson Controls Blue Water webinar for December 2021. Each monthly webinar is an interactive digital experience for water utilities to learn about new technologies, software, services, and best practices in a vendor-neutral format. The Blue Water webinar is brought to you by the Water Infrastructure Technology team of Johnson Controls. I am Craig Hanna, and I have the privilege of serving as the engineering manager of this team. I have been designing water meter, AMR/AMI system, leak detection, and water loss optimization projects for the past 19 years. With me today are two of my valued teammates, Miss Audrey Noel and Mr. Jonathan Gunn. Audrey?
Hey, I'm Audrey Noel, and I'm currently serving the team as Business Development Leader for the Water Infrastructure Technology team here at Johnson Controls, and directing operations for our utility metering and leak detection projects across the nation. Jonathan?
Yeah, thank you, Audrey. My name is Jonathan Gunn. I have the privilege of serving as a market manager on the water infrastructure team. Been in the industry a little over 11 years now, with 8 of those being with the water team. And beyond this team, I'm a member of the American Waterworks Association, and like Craig, I serve in a number of different capacities, including vice chair of the Customer Metering Practices Committee, chair of the C712 meter standard, and I co-author various manuals. So I just want to say welcome and thank you to our attendees for joining us today. I think we have a great program lined up for you. And speaking of that, Craig, do you want to walk us through the agenda for this morning?
Yeah, I'd be glad to, Jonathan. And again, thank you all for participating and attending our webinar. We have an exciting and informative webinar for you today. Safety is always a primary concern for us, and we will be starting with a safety talk led by Albert Garza, who is the Public Works Assistant Superintendent for the City of Wylie. Following that, our team will have an in-depth discussion of remote disconnect for water. And next, Michelle Camp from WaterSmart will be joining us for an interactive discussion about customer engagement portals, their benefits, and some best practices for increasing registration. Lastly, we will ask Orie and Emily Chaney from the City of Wylie, Texas, to tell us all about their ultrasonic water meter, AMI system, and customer engagement portal project that was recently installed. But I promise not to sing the Andy Williams classic for you, but it is the holiday season. Before starting the formal part of the webinar, we'd like to pause for just a minute and have some fun. You know, no matter how busy we are this time of year, most of us have at least one or maybe more movies that we make time to watch. We thought it would be interesting to learn what holiday films are your favorites. Audrey, would you please share with us what movie you must watch every time this year?
Yeah, Craig, for me it would have to be It's a Wonderful Life. It's a timeless classic. It's really heartwarming, and I think it reminds me every year what I really need to be grateful for.
All right, and Jonathan?
Yeah, so you'll let me have 2 on here, so thanks for doing that. You know, every year, Christmas with the Cranks and Christmas Vacation are always 2 that we have to watch. You think about Chevy Chase cutting open a dry turkey, taking down the power grid with his Christmas lights, and then, you know, Tim Allen. I don't think you have to really go much further than that, but, you know, Free Frosty, all that. You know, definitely classics that are on our list every year.
Oh, great movies, great movies. Love both of those. But I got to say, my all-time favorite movie, not just for holiday movie, but all-time favorite movie, would have to be It's a Wonderful Life. And yes, I did watch it last Saturday night, probably for at least the 30th time, if not more. But now, up in your on your console, you should have a pop-up screen asking you what is your favorite holiday film. So if you will. Please select what you believe to be your favorite holiday movie. And at the end of the webinar, we will share with you the results to let you know what is the favorite movie of those who work in the water industry. And I'll pause just for a few more seconds to let you vote. Okay. All right, and now I would like to introduce you to Mr. Albert Garza, who is the Assistant Superintendent for Public Works for the City of Wylie. Albert, would you please give us a safety talk for people who work in the water utility? Okay, we're ready for you, Albert.
Good morning. Thank you again for inviting me to this webinar. First of all, I just wanted to mention the City of Wylie has been very successful due to in being able to provide high quality services to our customers due to our efficient use of our resources, and our most important resources are our employees. Being able to provide safety resources, training is very impactful in our organization. We utilize several of our resources, our TML, COG. These are resources that are outside of our organization that provides several safety opportunities to kind of collaborate with them on some training classes. So we are thankful for them that we can go and reach out to them to have some training classes provided for our employees. We take training very seriously. Safety is a priority. Again, one of the things that we're very proud of, there's very few accidents in our department. So we take pride in that we continue to just talk safety every time. We encourage our supervisors, tailgate meetings every morning. So that kind of helps remind everybody the importance of safety. One of my favorite slogans is that at the end of the day, we want everybody to go home to their families just the way they came in the morning. So we take that real serious.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Albert. We really appreciate that, and safety is just so very important in our industry, and we hope that everyone stays safe and has a very happy holiday. And now let's talk about remote disconnect. Remote disconnect for water is a technology that's been available for several years, and it seems that water utilities are becoming more and more interested in using a remote disconnect to reduce operating expenses and to increase productivity. And I got to say, I love that photo. I hope everybody can see what's wrong with that particular meter setting. But as I said, remote disconnect, I think more and more utilities are adopting remote disconnect. And I have to say, 4 out of our last 8 water meter projects with AMI systems have included remote disconnect. And I would like to ask a question to you. Has your utility deployed remote disconnect meters? And if you will, respond to that poll in the in your pop-up menu on your console. Okay. Wow, that's rather surprising. About a third of the people attending the webinar today have deployed remote disconnect, and about 2/3 have not. So that's very interesting results. Wouldn't you agree, Jonathan?
It is, and it's definitely lends itself to folks on the call will know what we're getting into in a moment here, and other folks may be discovering. But there's certainly a number of benefits that can be realized with remote disconnect. And one of the first, and I think probably most obvious, is just increased staff efficiency. I think it's a fair statement to say that most utilities have a seemingly endless list of tasks and to-dos. So if you can reallocate existing labor so your workers are more productive, that's always going to be a positive thing. And particularly with remote disconnect, being able to restrict and shut off water for the comforts of the utility office means that you're not spending unnecessary time, mileage to physically visit each site and shut off the water. Craig, you had a great story about a customer in Espanola. Would you mind sharing that with us real quick?
Yeah, I'd be glad to, Jonathan. Yes, we were working with the City of Espanola, New Mexico a couple of years ago, and they had a great interest in remote disconnect because it's a relatively small department. I believe they only had 5 meter readers and meter technicians at the time, and every month they would take all 5 meter readers, plus they would grab whoever was available in the billing department and put them out on the street to distribute door hangers to the services that were going to be disconnected for non-payment. And then 2 days prior to disconnect day, all the meter readers and meter technicians, as well as people from the billing department, would once again be out on the street, passing out door hangers to the residents that were scheduled for disconnect. And then on the day of disconnect, all the meter readers and meter technicians would spend the entire day, sometimes well into the next day, interrupting services and putting padlocks on the corporation stops. And then as people paid the bills, then the meter readers would go back out in the street and remove the padlock and restore service. And they were doing this every month. So it was a tremendous drain on their productivity, just hanging the door hangers and all of that's involved. So remote disconnect was a great way to increase their efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. They got their money's worth out of that one, right?
Yeah.
And it really, on that note, something that really kind of goes hand in hand with that, and the second benefit is just, reduced operational expenses. Again, if you're increasing the efficiency of your resources, that's going to at some point equate itself to money saved. So again, time spent by your utility workers going to the field, mileage, fuel, maintenance on the vehicles that are involved going to the customer site and back. And quite honestly, there's an opportunity cost associated with that as well, because, you're not able to cross something else off the list. So remote disconnect helps to reduce those expenses. And, not to throw it back to you again there, Craig, but you're the keeper of stories here. You had one in Dallas. Would you mind sharing that one as well?
Yeah, thank you again, Jonathan. And several years ago, we were working with a utility in North Dallas that was very interested in remote disconnect as a way of reducing their operational expenses. That particular city had in their ordinances, if a customer makes a payment on their account, the water service has to be restored that very day. And the billing system office was open until 7 p.m. So if a customer came in at 6:58 and made a payment, the utility would have to dispatch a truck to that customer site to restore service. And the overtime pay was just affecting the utility tremendously. So they were very interested in remote disconnect as a way to just save on the amount of overtime that they were having to pay their employees.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Craig, for sharing that. Yet another benefit of having remote disconnect is the encouragement of prompt payment, right? So, depending on the technology that you select, the various policies that are adopted by your utility, either way, a customer is going to have a clear incentive to pay their bill or correct whatever issue it was that led to them being shut off when they either have no water or they just have a trickle flow and it takes, a long time to really do anything of note. As water utilities, there are many costs and expenses that are incurred every day, whether it be from normal day-to-day operations or whether it be, trying to plan for future upgrades to your system, anything in between. There's certainly costs and expenses that are incurred by a water utility. So having prompt payment from your customers can really make a difference for you when you're trying to, look at cash flow and all those other metrics and trying to execute your duties in the utilities. So, Audrey, I'm going to throw this next one to you about worker safety. I know it's an important topic to you, and I know you got a photo you want to share with us as well. Not this first photo, but you got another one you want to share.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. As we execute any municipal project, we work very closely with utilities. And when you want to know the town, go talk to your meter readers. It's very important to keep them out of harm's way, avoiding, known high crime areas, uneven and perilous terrain, and of course, irate customers during shutoff. And weather concerns exist in every season, whether it's the winter with icy roads, the spring rain, slippery leaves on the road in the fall, and avoiding any risk of heat stroke in the heat of summer is a definite benefit too. But the one thing that is a constant for every utility is homeowners' pets. I haven't met any meter reader that didn't have a tale to tell regarding either a dog bite or a near miss and narrowly avoiding one. So there's other concerns regarding animals. You'll find all kinds of visitors like snakes, spiders, and beehives that love to live in water meter pits, but this little guy was very interested in my installation van And while he looks cute and friendly, there was some damage to the vehicle, and his mama in the field was none too happy that he'd made a new friend. Needing to enter a barbed wire fence full of livestock to access a pit is not uncommon in the Midwest. And Craig, I think you have a story regarding the Midwest and some weather concerns as well.
Oh, I do, and thank you. I love that photo, Audrey. I'm glad I didn't meet either the kid or the mama. But I've recently attended a presentation by the former city manager of Jacksonville, Texas, and he was talking about remote disconnect and how it literally saved the city of Jacksonville, Texas during the winter storm that we had here in Texas and in the South in February this year. You know, where Jonathan, where you live, cold weather is a constant for many months of the year. But here in Texas, our utilities are simply not set up to have 10 consecutive days of freezing weather. And before the storm had hit some years ago, the city of Jacksonville had deployed remote disconnect meters to all residential and light commercial services there in the city in the interest of fairness and equity. And the former city manager said he was so grateful that they had made that decision, because when that storm hit this February, his small department with 5 workers had over 500 calls for remote disconnect within a 48-hour period. And, a small department with 5 workers in any kind of weather simply can't meet that kind of call, with over 500 calls. And so with remote disconnect, the people in customer service were able to interrupt service, protecting the people's homes and businesses from further water damage. And it freed up his crews to go out there and work on the main breaks that terrible storm had caused. And Jonathan, I think there's one more possible benefit about remote disconnect that you were going to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a new revenue stream, and I'm sure some ears perked up on the phone. We always like new revenue streams. But yeah, it's something you might choose to consider. If you are a utility that you have a lot of rental properties, Airbnbs, maybe college housing, whatever the situation may be. Let's just say customers that may have more shutoffs than others. Maybe it would be wise to look into having the landlords of those properties enter into agreement with the utility for remote disconnect service, just so you're not rolling trucks all the time, spending that time, but also it's just easier to turn the service on and off depending on what the occupancy is. And of course, with that service, there would be a convenience fee. So, certainly something to consider and look into, if you have an absorbent amount of those types of services. So, with that, we did want to briefly talk about some available technologies on the market. But before we do, I know I'm going to see a lot of nods with Craig and Audrey here. Johnson Controls, we're vendor neutral. We really are. We work with everybody. We have a lot of experience with a lot of different systems, a lot of different technologies. Our goal is to provide you as a utility with a system and a solution that's going to meet your needs and work best for you. We really don't have a horse in the race of how you get there. We're just here to help you get there. So I want to drive that home here. And as you'll see here in a moment, we're going to talk about a number of different technologies. So really one of the first ones here in no particular order is the Badger E series. So this is a ultrasonic or static meter with no moving parts, and it contains an integrated gate valve, which can be in one of 3 positions: fully open, partially open, or fully closed. And as previously discussed, the availability of a partially open valve allows the utility to still provide water to a customer, but it's just going to take a while to do anything of note. So you're not completely cutting them off, but there's clearly an incentive to come in and pay the bill or correct whatever the issue is. On the meter itself, there's an LED, which indicates the current position of the gate valve, and the valve is also field replaceable should it fail. In order to operate the meter, you will need to have a Badger cellular LTE endpoint with the Badger Beacon AMA network. The second meter is a Hersey 420 RDM. This is a positive displacement mechanical meter with an integrated pilot valve, which has 2 positions, open or closed, and the valve is also field replaceable should there be a failure. In order to operate this valve, the utility must have either the Mueller Systems MyNet AMI system or the Mueller Systems mobile RDM system and application. The latter option allows the utility to operate the valve even if they don't have an AMI system in place, which may be desirable feature if you're a utility which really has an immediate need for remote disconnect in your system, but maybe you're just not quite ready yet for a full-blown AMI system deployment. So a third option is the Metron Farner Spectrum 30dV meter. This is a single jet technology with an integrated sliding plate valve, which offers 5 positions: open, irrigation, restriction, limited use, trickle, or closed. And while single jet meters are extremely accurate meters, they are potentially susceptible to disturbed flows through the measuring chamber. So as such, the meter accuracy may be affected if the valve is between 80 and 99% closed. So not necessarily a bad thing, just something to note. This valve requires a utility to have the T2 virtual network cellular AMI solution in order to operate the valve, at least in the areas where you want remote disconnect to be. So it's kind of nice from the standpoint where, if you're not quite ready for a full-blown AMI system deployment, you can strategically deploy an AMI network just in the areas where you want this remote disconnect to be. But again, that's very utility specific and what your needs are. A fourth option is the Sensus Ally meter. This is effectively a Sensus iPro electromagnetic, or another static meter with an integrated stainless steel ball valve. And like some other meters that we've seen so far, it offers 3 positions: open, reduced flow, and fully closed. This meter is also able to measure and report water temperature and pressure, which may be useful for a strategic deployment within a distribution system. This meter requires a Sensus FlexNet AMI system in order to be installed if you're going to take advantage of this meter's capabilities and operate the valve. The fifth and sixth options are really break the mold a little bit from the standpoint of them being standalone valves. There's no meter component to these products. They're standalone valves. The set flow valve offers a ball valve. It can be configured in 3 positions, and it comes in a 2-inch lay length. While the installation of this valve typically requires replumbing of the existing pipe in order to be of service, both Camstrip and Neptune both offer short versions of their Flow IQ 2100 and T10 meters respectively, which have lay lengths of 5.5 inches. These short lay lengths combined with a 2-inch lay length of the set flow result in an overall 7.5-inch lay length, which just happens to be the industry standard for a traditional 5/8 meter if you get a full length 5/8 meter. The set flow valve is not field replaceable, so if it fails, you will need to replace the entire valve. And it can be read via really a number of methods, whether it be LTE and cellular with either Verizon or AT&T. Wi-Fi, should your utility have access to citywide Wi-Fi. Itron's AMI systems, including Choice Connect, Riva, and Gen 5, can all read and operate this valve. Or if you like good old-fashioned Bluetooth, that's certainly a great option as well, where a utility worker, you would drive up in front of the home or place of business and simply operate the valve from your home. The sixth and final option that we'll discuss is the Subeka Act valve. So like the set flow valve, the Act valve is a standalone ball valve with a 3.94-inch lay length and fittings which allow for flexible installations. So you install the fittings, the valve slides between them. It's easy. The valve actuator is field replaceable should a failure occur, and it allows the utility to select from one of 100 different positions. So, if you're a fan of fine tuning, this is the one for you because you can get it just the way you want it. The valve is operated via Bluetooth 5.0 enabled devices or the Subeka Link AMI OT endpoint. So a lot of information there to digest. We went through it pretty quick, but I think it's fair to say, and I think you'll agree, Craig, that no matter which product you choose for your utility, it's really only a first step of many in implementing a remote disconnect system. Would you agree with that, Craig?
Oh, absolutely. There are many things that a utility has to consider when they make the decision to pursue remote disconnect. Change management is a key part of that, and we're not going to go into change management in detail today. We hope that you'll join us in January for our webinar then, where we will have an in-depth discussion about change management and how it benefits the utility. But here are some things that your utility needs to consider as you deploy remote disconnect meters. And first and foremost is you need to decide which services are to receive a remote disconnect. Should every residential and light commercial service receive a remote disconnect just in the interest of fairness and equity, or should you only provide those valves or meters at services in which there's a history of insufficient funds, where a meter technician has had access issues, like Audrey's goat, or if there's ever been a life safety issue with a meter reader and an irate citizen or a pet or something of that sort. Another key item for your utility to consider is what kind of flow are we going to provide? Are we going to have no flow, or are we going to reduce the flow to some degree? And there's been much research done on this particular topic by Census, and what Census has concluded from their research is that a reduced flow solution is actually preferable as opposed to a hard disconnect. It's been their experience that a reduced flow setting engenders a sense of goodwill and cooperation between the account holder and the utility, whereas a hard disconnect creates a sense of animosity and some ill will between the account holder and the utility. And now that you're considering remote disconnect, you might as well improve your customer communication with modern technology. So instead of sending out door hangers and printing bill stuffers and things like that, perhaps those customers that have remote disconnect should be required to have either a text message, SMS message, or email, or maybe even an automated phone call letting them know that their service will be interrupted on this date and time unless they have a payment made. So why not streamline your customer notification practices while you're at it? Another thing for you to consider is what is to be done with the meter or the valve once the old tenants leave. Should that more expensive valve and meter be left in service at that site, even though there's a chance that the new tenants might be prompt with their payment? Or should you remove that investment and put in a traditional water meter in its place? But here's a very important topic for you to consider, and that's your existing codes, ordinances, utility policies, etc. All of those items need to be updated to reflect remote disconnect, and then that information needs to be made available to the public so that everyone is aware of the changes that have been realized by the utility once remote disconnect is available. And I'd like to push a poll question to you. I'd like to ask, does your utility have a written policy for which accounts are to receive remote disconnect? We're very curious, and we're eager to see your results in the pop-up window. If you've codified your remote disconnect procedures and policies. Okay, well, it looks like right now. It looks like 2/3 of you do not have a policy for remote disconnect, and 1/3 of you are considering. So that's very, very interesting findings, wouldn't you say, Jonathan?
Yeah, I would agree. I thought there'd be one yes, but no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, so, Craig, you and I had an opportunity in 2019 to do a survey of this as well on a little bit different scale, and they even let us present it at the ACE 2019 conference. But while we found that one utility really broke the norm, most utilities were in lockstep. And what we found were really 4 common themes between all the utilities. The staff efficiency was increased, probably not a big surprise there. Operating expenses were reduced, again, probably not another big surprise there. Prompt payment was encouraged, so they noted that they received payment usually a little quicker than maybe they did in the past. But I think the one that surprised me, and I know it surprised you, Craig, as well, was that it did not modify behavior by any means. So those folks who were frequent offenders that were usually in arrears maintained their status as folks that were in arrears, quite frankly, most of the time. So definitely an interesting bit of information there. So with that, why don't we take a moment here? Let's open it up to some Q&A about remote disconnect, and we'll give it a few seconds here.
Yeah, if you look on your console, there is a space for you to to enter a question, and we do have one question here. How long does it take to close a valve? Audrey, would you like to take this question?
Sure. It depends on the system you're using, but most of the time you can send an on-demand instruction through your AMI system that will instruct it to close the valve, and so it's going to try and send that message. There are the instances where it might fail out, and it will automatically try again at another 15-minute interval, but it's a matter of minutes, Craig.
Okay, matter of minutes. That's good. And Jonathan, here's a question I'd like to give you. Must the remote disconnect valves be manually cycled each month to keep them in good working order?
Thankfully, no. The frequency at which it happens will depend on the product you select, but usually at least once a month, the valves will cycle themselves, usually in the very early morning hours where there's not really going to be a lot of usage anyway. They will cycle themselves to make sure that you don't have a situation where they get stuck or gummed up or whatever.
Okay. And we got one last question about battery life for either the meter or the disconnect valve. And I'd say it varies by manufacturer, but typically for the meter, one should expect between 15 and 20 years of service for a meter with remote disconnect. And then with the valves, the standalone valves, one should expect at least 10 years of service under normal operating conditions. All right. Well, thank you all very much for that discussion on remote disconnect. And now I'd like to visit with Michelle Camp of WaterSmart to talk about customer engagement portals. And, it's been our experience in the last several years that customers are truly expecting more from their utilities. They demand on having almost instantaneous information. They like to be able to fix things themselves and understand things themselves. No more is a monthly letter from the utility acceptable. They expect personalized communication with text messages and email alerts if there's something going on at their property. They expect the utility to tell them why their bill might be so high, and there's just people are demanding more. And I have to say, here at Johnson Controls, our experience, I don't believe we've sold a project in the last 2 to 3 years that didn't have a customer engagement portal, even for some of our projects that were not necessarily utility projects. We did a project for the Oklahoma Department of Corrections, and we actually put in water meters with a customer engagement portal at each of the facilities there at the penitentiary, so that they could monitor for leaks on a regular basis. And with me today is Michelle Camp from WaterSmart. And Michelle, we're so glad that you could stop by and visit with us. How long have you been with WaterSmart, Michelle?
Yep. So good morning, everybody. I'm Michelle. I have been with the company now approaching 6.5 years. So it's been a good long run.
Good. And what is your role? What is your title there at WaterSmart?
Yep. I'm a regional sales director, and I cover the lower central portion of the country. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I'm actually not calling from Austin. I'm calling from Alpine, far out west near Big Bend National Park. So not as close to Wylie as I normally am. Yeah, so that's my role at the company.
Okay, well, good. Well, tell us, Michelle, what are some of the ways that a utility will benefit from having a customer engagement portal?
Absolutely. So our solution, our platform, is really designed to give utilities the ability to communicate with their customers in any channel of that customer's choice. So we certainly offer a customer portal. That's one channel that is a part of our platform, but it's certainly not the only one. So we do offer these other channels to get in touch with customers, whether it be email, text, voice, or even print. So those 4 plus the portal comprise our multi-channel platform. That way utilities can get in touch with customers in the channel of their choice about certain events, whether it be a leak, a boil order, a planned service interruption, or if customers want to go online and learn more about their use.
Okay. Well, what are some of the most popular devices that you see out there for account holders to view the portal?
So we see account holders coming in from all devices, and they really just need access to a browser and the internet to access their WaterSmart portal. We do see a combination of, desktop, tablet, and mobile. Mobile has certainly become more popular over the years. So, imagine receiving a text, clicking on a link, and then bouncing right over into your browser to do more. So we do see that collection. Mobile certainly is experiencing that uptick. It really does depend on the demographic of the community. The good thing is that folks just need simple internet connection to get online.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. I'm surprised that mobile is becoming more and more prominent. And now I have a question about utilities that have either a manual meter reading process or a mobile AMR system process. Would you recommend a customer engagement portal to those utilities?
Absolutely. So, we've been serving utilities for over a decade. And earlier in our business, AMI wasn't as prevalent. It obviously is becoming more and more prevalent over time. And cities like Wylie are implementing it and using WaterSmart to complement that investment. But over time, we've been serving utilities that haven't had AMI, and we certainly don't require this data to function. The benefit of putting in a customer engagement platform and beginning that conversation with your customers before AMI is that, one, you can begin to get your customers to adopt that platform, to sign up, register, to update their communication preferences, basically establish, that conduit for customer communication early, not, wait until something like AMI to then try to get their email address or phone number to send a leak alert. Do that work in advance. The second benefit is that if you begin that communication with customers now, and it can be about anything well ahead of an AMI project, perhaps it's about another utility investment, you can begin to have that dialogue with the customer, you can build that trust with them, and you can build that support for a visible, expensive, but important project that is AMI. So you can build that support, and as a result, we find that utilities or utility customers, account holders, won't just see a higher bill. They'll actually understand the benefits of AMI, such as, those leak alerts, bill projection, things like that.
Okay. Now let's talk about online bill payment. How important is payment integration to the overall success of the customer engagement portal for a utility?
That's a great question, and I'm really excited to hear more about Wylie's results later in the presentation. We do find that utilities that do or add more integrations to the customer engagement platform see greater adoption, greater use of the software. So that makes sense, because if customers have one place to go to do it all, to handle all of their utility needs in a seamless way, they're going to use that software as opposed to having to jump around, to different accounts and have to remember different, logins. So we do find that utilities that add AMI and integration and bring in that interval data into the platform, as well as add a payment integration to bring that experience into our platform, we find that they have greater adoption. And the median rate of adoption is 50%. Wylie is well in line with that, and they'll talk more about that. But yes, we find that even more than just Wylie, several of our utility partners that bring in both, and even can go further than that, they see that high registration rate.
Oh, good. Okay, well, we know the portal is an outstanding tool for monitoring usage, for conserving water, but is there more? Do utilities ever use the portal to alert account holders within, let's say, a particular pressure zone or a neighborhood to a temporary outage or maybe a boil water notice?
Absolutely. So another use of the software and a benefit of having the ability to send multi-channel communications to customers is that outside of, AMI, for example, you can get in touch with them about anything. And so I think A good use case that I like to talk a lot about, even though a lot of us in Texas and surrounding states don't like to think back to February, is that we did have this, critical event that impacted our water systems and caused things like boil orders. So, one use case I like to talk about is where I'm based in Austin, where Austin Water sent over 600,000 text and email notifications to customers around that February freeze event. There was a series of notifications that included a post-event follow-up, but it's this type of use of the customer engagement platform that utilities need because we know that critical events are becoming more and more common, or just simply the need to alert a customer that their water service will be affected for planned maintenance, things like that. So absolutely, that's a major use case.
Okay, and we know the utility can use the portal to communicate to the account holder, but is it possible for a customer to use the portal to alert the utility to something such as water percolating out of the ground from a leak, if there's a taste or odor issue with their water, or something else?
Definitely. So there are a number of ways for account holders to get in touch with the utility. So whether it's from within the portal, they can send an email to the utility that then is tied back to our dashboard, that folks like the Wylie team will see. We collect that customer feedback in a number of ways. Certainly, one way is to compile it into what we call conversations. We do track the source of customer feedback, so whether that's the portal or it could be a response to, say, a leak alert email. Those things will come in, and we make it really easy for utility staff to filter through those, to respond to those, to close those notes, just to make sure that they're tracking those conversations in a timely way. So yes, customers have the ability to get in touch with utility without having to pick up the phone. I know that I prefer to communicate digitally and not have to be on a call. So that's certainly a key way that customers are using the software.
Okay, well that's great information, and just so I can summarize, some of the benefits that customer engagement portals provide to the utility is, number one, it reduces the support calls, and from data that we've seen so far, about 40% of customers can self-resolve a leak without actually contacting the utility. And then it gives you the ability to reach more households through a variety of communications platforms. It helps you drive the digital conversion of the utility. And I found this an interesting statistic, is that 20% of customers who receive a printed leak alert will then later register for the portal. So it helps drive that digital conversion. And then, one of the key benefits to me is it increases staff efficiency by automating processes. And I think you've shown that at least 10 hours of staff time a week are saved with by having a customer engagement portal. And I'm going to push out a question on the poll. If your utility has a customer engagement portal, how has it affected your operations? Are you seeing more and more calls and in-person visits than you were before? Are you seeing fewer calls and fewer in-person visits than you were before because the customer is able to address a lot of their concerns online? Or has there been no real noticeable change in your communication with customers? All right. Wow. Jonathan, Audrey, are you seeing that? It looks like those that have a portal have seen a great reduction in the number of calls and in-person visits by the portal. So that's exciting. And Michelle, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity, and really looking forward to Wylie talking more about their amazing success.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And let's just see if the audience has any questions they'd like to ask you. I know we've gotten one. If a customer has multiple accounts, do they need to log into each account separately?
No. So we offer the ability for customers to link their accounts so that they have one portal, one login to access multiple accounts. So yes, that's a part of the experience.
Okay, and I think we got another question. I know this one could take a long time to answer, but maybe you can give us a quick answer to it. Is how secure is the information stored on the portal?
It's very secure. So we take security very seriously. We continue to, we have and still encrypt all data in transit and at rest. We invest in third-party penetration testing. We work with only the top-rated vendors in the IT areas of business. So those are just some examples of the ways that we maintain very high security.
All right. Well, again, thank you so very much for making time out. And I wish I could join you in Alpine. I love that place. Beautiful, beautiful city.
It is beautiful.
But,
thank you, Craig.
All right. Well, thank you. And now we'd like to turn and focus on the city of Wylie, Texas. With us today are Albert Garza and Orie Cross and Emily Chaney. And for those of you who are not familiar with Wylie, it is a suburb of the Dallas. It's located on the extreme northeast edge of the Dallas Metroplex. You'll see it on the map. It's in the dark blue circle in the center. And I gotta put a plug in though to Wylie is very close to my hometown of Richardson, Texas. So I really enjoyed getting to work with Wylie. Great people there. Plus I got to go home for the first time in a long time. So I'd like to talk to Orie and Emily and Albert. And Orie, what do you do for the city and how long have you been there?
Well, I'm Orie Cross, and I have been with the city for 8 years, and I am the utility manager. I currently supervise 9 employees. I'm over the utility side as well as the meter service division.
Okay, and Emily, what do you do for the city of Wylie, and how long have you been working for the city?
I have been working for the city for 5 years. I'm the AMI analyst, which means I analyze and am in charge of basically the softwares, like calling tech support when I need to, of Neptune, WaterSmart, and Invoice Cloud.
Okay. Well, tell us about Wylie and what makes it a great place to live and work.
Well, I think Wylie is a great place to live because of the community, the small town feel. We are building a lot of residential and commercial properties, so I think the development is great, but it still feels like a small town. The work environment here at the city, it's friendly. Everyone works as a team, and we all challenge each other to do better.
Oh, excellent. And is there one thing that you like best about Wylie?
The town, I like the downtown area the best about Wylie. Work, I just like my job the best. My department, it rocks.
Yeah, you've got a great team there in Wylie, and it was a pleasure working with you. So what were some of the issues and challenges that the city faced before our project started?
So we had a bunch of failing AMR meters, failing software to read the meters. We had to use the help of 15 employees from the Public Works and Parks Department to read the meters each month to have the reading done by the end of the month. We had over 35 manual reads per month at one point. The rain affected the system being able to retrieve reads. Our meter boxes were completely deteriorating. Curb stops needed to be replaced. The infrastructure just was not updated. Our billing software as well, the meters, we didn't have the correct size meters in our billing software, so it was very hard and inaccurate when we started the project to make sure that we were putting the right meters and the right sizes in the ground for what we needed to do to replace the infrastructure.
Oh, sounds like you had your hands full.
We did.
Yeah. Well, how did your project with Johnson Controls help you to resolve those challenges?
Well, I feel like Johnson Control, they set up multiple presentations from meter vendors and portal vendors so that we could agree upon what would work best for the city of Wylie. So that really helped that process. They hired a company called, SL Circo. They would compare our current state processes and complete how-tos on what our new and our improved processes would look like. I really appreciated that JCI appointed a project manager to work with the city. Anything we needed at all, we could contact our project manager and they would take care of. They helped us with the best option to purchase the meters financially and what would work financially best for the city. The meter implementation company, US Bronco, was a great help. They didn't only help us with GPS in the meters with our GIS team, but they also helped with customer complaints in the field, and any kind of complaint that we had, they would go out and talk to the customer. So that alleviated a lot of work for the utility department.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that, and I got to tell you, the adoption rate and the utilization rate for your customer engagement portal has been phenomenal. I've never seen such a successful portal project before, and we're going to show some of the things that you did, but tell us more. How did you promote the portal to your account holders?
You want to talk about this, Emily?
Yeah, so we, before we launched, we sent out, WaterSmart sent out paper notices. We sent out notices designed by Craig, who works here at the city, in with our bills. We sent out citywide text messages. We sent out citywide emails. We posted on Facebook. We posted on Nextdoor. We did a little bit of everything.
A little live video.
A little video.
Yeah. All right, well, let's take a look at some of that. This is the, I believe this is the newsletter that you referred to from Craig Kelly, the Wide Awake Wylie publication that you sent out to all your customers, and it tells them about the portal and how to register for that. And then let's watch the video if you don't mind.
Sure.
I am the City of Wylie Utility Billing Manager. We are out here in the field today learning the new meter implementation process. I have my whole crew out here learning how to implement the meter into the ground, change out program, learning how to do everything so that we can better help our citizens when they ask questions about what goes on in the field and how the meter works. We are about 70% complete with the meter process right now. We will be completely done with the meter process by May, sometime in May, so in the next couple of months. We will be implementing the WaterSmart program. With that WaterSmart program, there will also be an app available for citizens. You will be able to monitor your water, check on your usage, and have control of what you're using. We are super excited about the new meter implementation being done. For more information on the implementation, go to www.wylietexas.gov/yourwater.
Well, thank you for that video. It's certainly a tremendous story to tell in Wylie, and one that we're certainly be proud to be a part of. So, you know, as Orie and Craig and Emily and you know, touched on earlier, there are very interesting statistics came out of the City of Wylie. You know, first off, the subscription rates. You know, within the first 90 days, they had 23% of the eligible accounts had registered on the portal, and actually, as of this week, you know, we checked again, and it's about 48%. So, just a tremendous adoption rate, tremendous job by Orie and her team to get the word out and really make sure that folks knew that this was available and they're using it. So something that we found be interesting, or I found to be interesting at least, was with regard to the breakdown of the registrations. I think, you know, my mindset when I think about a customer portal is predominantly around residential customers, but you know, if you look at the breakdown, you know, at least as insofar as the first 90 days of total registrants, 26% of them were single-family residences, and everybody else was either unknown or they fell into more of a commercial, industrial sort of capacity. So, you know, I think it's a good reminder that you know, it's not only you know, the single families that are looking into this information that are using it, but certainly our commercial and industrial customers are interested in this information as well. That being said, we'll see in a moment here in terms of website traffic. It might shift the scales back the other way again, but we'll get to that in a minute. In terms of registration sources, really kind of a nice variety here. You know, by far and away, group message was the #1 way that people register for the portal. Michelle had touched on some of these categories earlier, but with the group message being coming from a digital group message sent from the City of Wylie, customer letters were also a significant part of this as well, meaning that the customer received an email or welcome letter that was delivered on Wylie's behalf. Conversations accounted for about 0.5%. That's where staff helped to register a customer on the customer's behalf from a staff-initiated email message. And then other, that included things like, a customer got a leak alert or high use notification, something like that led them to go to the portal. So, as they say, it doesn't matter how you get there. It's just as long as you get there, right? So, and finally, in terms of some of the regular portal users, again, limited to the first, 90 or so days here, 73% of registrants visited at least once. You have 18% visit twice, about 6% visit 3 times. And as I alluded to earlier, by far and away, the bulk of the traffic was single family. So, if you look at the registrants, it was very heavily weighted more toward, commercial industrial, but in terms of people that are on there frequently and looking at things the most, still remains to be single family. So a little bit of a battle there, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out over time. And, again, something that we touched on earlier was regard to the split between mobile and desktop usage. And I know I had expected this to be a little more flip-flopped. I thought mobile would really take the lead on this, but clearly desktops still have quite a role when folks are logging in and looking at data. So just some really great information there, and again, just a tremendous job there in the City of Wylie. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't share a couple success stories as well. And Emily's going to be laughing because she wrote the responses on these. So great job, Emily. But this first one was a church. They said, we shut the water off at the meter all week, and yet the meter still showed 20 gallons of water per day. There's got to be something wrong with the meter here. And, I won't read the whole response that Emily wrote, but, just having this information at hand, she was able to really give them data logs, and, she'll probably talk a little bit later about just how easy that is. And sharing the data with the customer, pointing them in a direction. Turns out it looks like they had a small leak on the property. And, I'm guessing that they got that rectified pretty quickly because they were obviously very concerned about their water. So just having that there available for them is just phenomenal. Second one, we have to guess that they got a high bill because they said it costs way too much. That's all they said. So again, Emily was able to, pull data from the system and say, hey, by the way, you're using like 3,500 gallons, for irrigation. Maybe if you reduce the minutes, each of your station runs, you might be able to reduce that a little bit. And here's some, historical information for you to look over so you can see when you're using water. So all that just being, again, just a tremendous customer service piece for your constituents. So Orie and Emily, if I could ask one more question, how have your customers, we've talked a lot about the utility and a lot of different, but what would you say your customers feel about this portal and how they benefit from it?
Benefit-wise, we went ahead and implemented the payment portion that was suggested by WaterSmart. So they've had way more options to pay on the portal than the previous way that we had on our online portal. More ways to efficiently be responsible and rate their usage. They can set alerts and thresholds so that they can be alerted when they have water running, high usage, continuous consumption. It provides tips on how to fix the leaks, which I have seen the customers utilize, and tips on how to save water. It provides convenient ways to contact utility billing directly. Before, we had a lot of people just contacting our utility email. Now they're actually logging into the WaterSmart portal and they're contacting us through that, which has been great because it's very easy and user-friendly to contact the customer back. Emily, do you have anything to add?
We recently, WaterSmart has a feature where it, if we turn it on, according to certain thresholds, it will automatically send a customer a notice without them having to sign up for it. So we've been capturing a lot of customers that haven't registered yet with that. And the email tells them how much they've used in the last 24 hours, and it gives them options to go online and check. So it's really putting the power in the customer's hand to be in control of their leaks and their water usage, and I really like that feature.
Okay.
Phenomenal. Yeah. All right, great. Well, do we, Craig, do we want to do, do we have any questions in the queue for, are you able to stick around for a minute, Emily, Orie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just had one question in the question and answer section so far, and that is, could you provide us with an update on portal registration and usage?
Yeah, so it is currently at 48%, and the total number of customers is, I believe, I wrote it down, 9,561, and that is actually more by about 1,000 than what we had on our old portal, online portal.
Okay. All right. Well, I know we're right at the end of the hour, and I just wanted to say thank you again to everyone for attending our Blue Water webinar this month. I'd like to acknowledge Kelsey Elder, Adam Dirk, Ted Tisdale, Paul Pablocki from Johnson Controls for all their help in making this possible. Michelle Camp, thank you so much for stopping by to talk about customer engagement portals. And Albert, thank you for your safety talk. Orie and Emily, great to see you again. Thank you so much for visiting with us about the project there in Wylie. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at bluewater@jci.com. And if you have a topic that you'd like for us to cover at a future webinar, please, by all means, let us know. And next month, our Blue Water webinar will be on the 19th, and we'll be discussing migrating from mobile AMR to fixed network AMI. As we said, we'll have a discussion on change management, and we'll be featuring the City of Dumas, Texas, and their recent ultrasonic water meter, AMI system, large meter typing, and customer engagement portal project. And now the moment you've probably all been waiting for. What are the favorite movies of the people who work in the water industry? And it looks like the winner would be A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Followed closely by Wonderful Life, and then Christmas Vacation are tied. Christmas Vacation, Wonderful Life are tied. Christmas with the Cranks got about 6%, and so did Rudy, the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Santa Claus Coming to Town. All right. Well, I think we've got our movie choices for the holidays. And again, we wish all of you a very safe and happy holiday season. Thank you for attending the Blue Water webinar from all of us on the Water Infrastructure Technology team. Be safe, and we hope to see you again on January 19th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to see everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.